Guess what?
What?
It's an occasion.
Today is an occasion. First off,
An occasion of legality.
it is an occasion of legality. So on that note, hello everybody. I'm Brian.
Oh, I'm Ben. Introductions coming back.
Yeah, getting back in style. You know, this is a very cordial...
Just the two of us again.
Just the two of us again. Welcome to episode number 21 of Pluggin, a return to form. Me and Ben are back at it. We got a nice new blue microphone, though, so you can hear our perfect, beautiful, velvety voices even better than before. And we're going to throw it to you real quick. We had a crazy month. We had guest spots for 3 weeks in a row. We did the E3 predictions, the E3 results, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, but I know I'm happy to be real back. Real back. I'm happy to be back, rather, to the old format. It's a little bit less hectic, a little bit less crazy. On that note, especially now...
It's cozy with the two of us.
It is cozy. It feels nicer. There's a lot more room in this room. It feels a lot less hot, even though we still got the AC off as always. It's a lot nicer because there's less body heat in this room. All right, so on the note of getting back to basics, we're going to have a very laid-back kind of episode. Not just for that reason, but as Ben said at the beginning, this is a celebratory episode because this is episode number 21. Keeping with the theme of my jokes, our episode is now old enough to drink.
This is the payoff of your corny joke.
This is literally the payoff of my corny jokes for like 3 weeks. Our episode, it is now legal enough to drink. Our podcast is going to go out, have one crazy night at the bar, probably get blackout drunk, wake up in a dumpster, and then realize...
We pre-gamed the cast.
We did pre-game. Me and Ben are actually going to be having beers throughout the episode. We had one already. We're drinking a Rebel IPA by Samuel Adams because we are a classy gentleman. And we're just going to kind of, on that note, because it's episode number 21, because it's our first week without guests, and also because we did pass a milestone. We've done 20 episodes now, Ben.
20 is a milestone.
20 is a milestone. We've been doing this now for almost 3 months. No,
21 weeks.
21 weeks. Is that... No, that's more. That's more than 3 months. It's way more than 3 months. Either way.
I don't know what math is right now.
I don't know what math is either.
Speaking of math, though.
Speaking of math.
We got a mighty number.
What number do we have, Ben?
A mighty number 9.
Oh, that's right. So, the return of looking back. We're going to be talking about mighty number 9. Interesting. So, Ben, why did we choose this game?
Well, of course, it came out last year. June 21st, 2016.
Oh, this is a year anniversary. I didn't even know.
It's 1 year old.
Interesting.
Yeah, not old enough to drink.
Not at all.
That would cause severe brain damage.
Horrible.
Don't give 1-year-olds alcohol.
If there's anything you learn tonight, audience, don't give 1-year-olds alcohol. If there's nothing else we teach you, do not give your 1-year-olds alcohol. But Ben,
that should be obvious.
All right, so you guys might or might not know this game. It was a little notorious, particularly last year. For whatever reason, I thought it was 2015 that the game came out. But
what was his name?
The name of
the creator of Mega Man,
Kenji Ifune.
Inafune-san.
Right. Inafune-san. So, this was the much hyped return to form from Inafune-san at his new
This
developer.
was like, I don't know the year, but like for a long time.
I think
it might have been like 2010,
2013 or 2014. It was after Kickstarter started. And
yeah, true.
That was 2012 or at least Kickstarter was around for a bit, but it really, at least in terms of gaming, hit the map in 2012.
You're right. No, it was more recent than that. Yeah, but he had this campaign going for a long time, and he had that comeback video where he's like, "I'm the Mega Man guy," and he was like, "I'm making a new game," and that alone is an awesome prospect.
And it was a super big success. I mean, it made, I think, over $1 million.
Kickstarter. Let's be specific. The Kickstarter was a success.
I believe it made over $1 million. I think somewhere in the range of 1.5 to 3. I'm not sure in that exact number, but it made a pretty ridiculous amount of money.
And they added like 1 million stretch goals.
Oh yeah, it blew. I think its stretch goals. It was somewhere in the hundreds of thousands. So it blew way past its stretch goals.
And what do you call it? It's like anticlimactic, right?
Yes, it's anticlimactic.
I'd call it that.
That's, I think, what most people would say about the game if they're being generous.
It feels like an indie game that some kid made in their basement in GarageBand.
Wow, it's that bad. It's that bad.
It's like "See You in My Nightmares," the Lil Wayne track on 808s.
Yeah, the Kanye Lil Wayne song. Yeah,
it feels like that. Kind of phoned in.
It has a pretty phoned in song, actually. That was a good reference. Yeah,
No disrespect to 808s.
Great album. That is probably the
I always thought that song sounded a little like he made it in GarageBand in 15 minutes, and he called Lil Wayne.
Yeah. That and RoboCop, but I kind of like RoboCop.
Don't diss RoboCop.
RoboCop's a great song, but it's corny
number...
as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The outro is a little corny.
Oh, you can. Okay, we're getting... This isn't the Kanye podcast. That's probably going to be launching sometime in the next couple months when we finally say fuck
True.
it.
But yeah, right. I played the game.
I haven't played the game.
I bought it on Wii U because around that time there were no games for Wii U, and I think it was in Target. It was like $10 on sale from, I don't know what the retail price was. It had to be at least 20.
It was like 30 or 40. I think it was a budget price game. Always.
It was budget, but it was still like a retail game. It came out on every system, and I think literally every system. Yeah, it was like a few weeks after it dropped. At that time I was checking Target daily just because I was obsessed at that point with Wii U and Amiibo. So
that was like the height of you and Dan Roach's like Amiibo hunting game.
Yeah, and then one day I walked in and it was like $12.99. So I just got it. I was like, yeah, that's worth it to try it.
Had you like heard like the reception of it and like had you known like its reputation by that point?
I also generally I like to not base my opinions on like internet flack, and a lot of times it's not true. This time it was true.
Yeah, that as someone who obviously is working very closely with you in this podcast, but also someone who's known you since 6th grade, that's always been something when it comes to games I've appreciated about you, Ben, is that you don't let the reception color your opinion. You kind of just try something, and if you like it, you enjoy it.
Yeah, and a lot of times I can see the flaws in something, but personally I will like it. This time wasn't the case. I never beat the game. I got... It's your classic Mega Man style. You can choose any stage from the beginning. Every stage is just a very hard platforming stage with a boss at the end. Most people played Mega Man, know how it works. And yeah, the mechanics are there, I think. They're just not executed. The whole game is based off this dashing mechanic.
Is it really?
So if you played Mega Man, I'm not sure if you can get that power in Mega Man, because you get powers and upgrades in that game, but
how many Mega Man games have you played anyway? Just to contextualize this a bit.
Very few. I played one of the NES ones. It was just never my game,
Yeah.
More of a Mario person. Mega Man's very stilted and like still good, but it's like it's just pixel perfect and wasn't up my alley.
It is. I know something a lot of people say is that it's almost like Dark Souls in that sense, that it's very like you have to do the exact thing. It's all pattern based. But
very
it's also,
pattern-based, yeah.
But also very unrelenting, where like you have to do like Ghost and Ghouls, like the game we were playing way back on episode 1 or 2 of this podcast. Like you do the right thing in the right order, and
it's never unfair though.
Yeah, it's never unfair. But if you mess up even once, you kind of have to just repeat the sequence, or maybe not that rigid, but not too far off from that.
I think Mighty Number 9 is unfair though.
Why would you say
a lot of Mega Man has this too, but there's a lot of like falling screens, where you'll fall and then the screen will pan up like a Zelda game pans to the side, and you have that like screen load, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so like you're falling and it's changing screens as you're falling, and sometimes there's just spikes at the bottom. That kind of thing where there was no telegraph. It's something that you have to die to learn. And I don't think Mega Man has that. It might, but it seemed more prevalent in Mighty Number 9, where I know the whole thing is you learn through dying, but there's no way you could learn anything without dying. Where you're just falling down a pit, and you have to basically guess where to fall, and you'll most likely hit spikes at the bottom and just die.
There's no sort of pattern to it. There's no sort of like you get a screen pan, you get to learn like. It's very unforgiving to the point of, not even unforgiving to the point of being unfair, literally just not designed well enough to support those kinds of jumps of leaps of faith.
Yeah, that's the word, yeah. There's a lot of leaps of faith that end in you not wanting to give your faith,
Yeah, it's less forgiving than even, because Mega Man has those, but there is this sense of at least you can kind of pan, you can kind of learn from your mistakes, at least in Mega Man. Like there is a chance to redeem yourself. It's at least fair in that sense. Mighty Number 9, it's just like it's not designed well enough. It wasn't thought through enough to kind of like warrant that kind of live and learn mentality.
Yeah.
Or die and learn, rather.
And what I was saying about the dash mechanic, which is very fun, it's basically like, you know how the Yoshi jump works, where you can keep doing the flutter, but you'll go downward each time, like you won't gain height. That's kind of how the dash works. So like if you're falling again, you can dash infinite times, but you'll keep falling.
Interesting.
So you can dash as much as you can before you hit the ground.
It sounds like a Mega Man X game almost, from like how you're describing it.
Yeah, I think Mega Man X has some of that dashing going on.
Which would make sense, because I know he was very heavily involved in the first couple Mega Man X games too. I know for him, Inafune-san, that was his attempt to rejuvenate the series after he felt, for him at least, it had gotten kind of stale. So I'm not surprised that he took elements to combine them, but I think that was even something people were excited about. But it just seems like he took... It's such an interesting case, because he had all these great ideas, but they just really weren't executed well.
Yeah. And on top of that, the polish is just... It's horrific, honestly. It's like, what's the opposite of polish?
Unpolished?
Unpolished. You're right. Unpolished. It's like, yeah, it's the most textured, like, rough thing.
Yeah, rough around the edges. That'd be a good
like, the graphics are... they look like a Disney Channel XD, like, CG cartoon. I don't know if that's an actual reference, but you know what I'm getting at.
Like Ben 10 or something like that.
But CG, you know, like 3D CG.
Oh yeah, like that early, like that Spider-Man series they did in like the early 2000s.
I don't know that.
Okay, well, if you know what I'm talking about, you guys know what I mean.
But yeah, you catch the drift, and
bad, just really bad, like very not.
And
polished.
I don't know. There's something like, even an awesome game like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, where it's a 2D. You're on a 2D plane, but the graphics are 3-dimensional. I just don't like that, really. Like, even the new Super Mario Bros., it's, like, flat, you know?
You don't like that, like, 2.5D kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't. I prefer, if it's going to be a side-scroller, it's easier for me to wrap my head around it.
So what do you think of the new Metroid game, then? Do you not like that art style?
Not particularly, actually, no. I really, I love pixel aesthetic, but I guess in modern times you want to have more detail, but something about just the actually having 2 dimensions only, it fits my brain better. I don't know. It's nothing really against the game at that point, but
I mean, it does make more logical sense to have pixel art in those senses. And I wonder, you should probably play did you ever play the Mega Man games for the Wii, like the 9 and 10 or whatever? Or 10 and 11.
Oh, no, those throwback ones. Never did.
Those ones would be cool. You and I could potentially be even like a future game club. I feel I would be down to try one of those, because we both have Wiis and we could easily access those.
But yeah, the graphics weren't on point, regardless of 2.5D. They just look not great. And
so the game's just janky, basically.
Janky, and it has these voice acting cutscenes that are just, oh my god.
Is it literally like they just picked actors off the street and were like, do this?
The actors...
Not even actors, just like random people off the street.
The actors aren't even worth saying they're bad actors. That's how bad it is. It's just like, it's like from another dimension.
That is probably the most brutal thing I've heard you say in a long time.
It's not a good game, and like, I don't often hop on the bandwagon of just being negative.
You don't. No, you don't.
But like, seriously, I got fun out of it. Definitely. Yeah. It was during a Wii U drought. I had my fun. It was $12.
Was it more like you were just kind of like sitting around and like laughing at the game's expense, but like you got your $12 out of it?
Yeah, definitely entertaining, worth it for me. But objectively, something went wrong, and like, I guess Inafune, I feel bad, because he definitely has talent. He's made good games, but this whole thing, it was also like one of these first big Kickstarters, so there's a lot of hype around it, and it took so long, and it just was like just didn't end well.
Well, it's interesting when you think about it from that point of view, because there is a lot of those Kickstarters have been kind of hit or miss. Like even Broken Age, which was the Double Fine Adventure game, which was like the first big one that started it off. Some people, that game was a little bit mixed, although I think most people enjoyed the first part of it. I know there was a decent amount of people who thought that the second part didn't live up to snuff, and there's a lot of reports of like, and I'm sure there's a great article out there. Probably there's probably a great Kotaku or Polygon write-up about what went wrong with Mighty Number 9. I haven't done that research, but just looking at it from an outsider's perspective, it does seem like they almost ran out of time and just shipped the game unreleased. I mean, even look at Ukulele. We just saw this happen again with another Kickstarter game. Like, as great as its democratization is, like, you still have to have quality control, and it's hard when there are these indie studios who feel the pressure, especially to release something. Now, some games are great. Like, the Wasteland games apparently have been fantastic. Wasteland 2 was so successful, they're making a Wasteland 3 now. Even Broken Age was super successful. They're doing Psychonauts 2 now. So these things are so successful, and I think that it's great we have them in our industry, but I think something like this game, something like Mighty Number 9...
Those examples I feel like are more, like, nitpicky. Like, I feel like they still delivered what they promised.
No, fair enough. You're right.
This is really a debacle, Mighty Number 9.
That's true. Ukulele might be more in that category. Some people would probably argue.
Maybe. I mean, I haven't played that. I'm still excited to try that one.
I might buy it on the Switch at some point.
I'm waiting for that one.
All right, so I think we're all about wrapped up here.
Yeah, I've said all I could about it.
I've listened about all I could. But, it was good. Thank you, Ben. All right, so keeping the nice, easy, and easy flow, let's do a segment that we haven't given too much attention to in the last couple weeks. And Mr. Ben, what have you been playing?
Oh, well, if you know me...
I do know you.
You know what I've been playing.
Zelda Breath of the Wild?
Zelda Breath of the Wild, and can you guess the other ones?
Mario Kart?
Mario Kart 8
Deluxe. Is there another game you've been playing on top of that, or is that everything?
That's it as far as what I've been playing, quote unquote.
Those are the two...
Oh, wait, no, I played some ARMS. Switching it up.
Right. You were playing some ARMS with Dan.
Yes.
So what do you think now? This is you. I got to talk about my hands-on time. Dan got to talk about his hands-on time. I'll start you off with that one. What do you think about ARMS?
I think it's growing on me. I'm still not about it, though. I think the last few rounds I had played with Dan were more fun. I found like a couple tricks that I could do, like it's just maneuvers that I was helping me win. And I wouldn't call them exploits, but just strategies, more like. But I'm just not a fighting game guy, I prefer single-player games, and I'm not very competitive, or maybe it's the fact that the competitiveness just gets to me, and, like, it's just, it just messes with me or something, but I just prefer to sit down with a single-player game, and it's more me against the game than against someone else. That's just me personally, but I can see that it's a dope game. I played with the Pro Controller. I'm kind of over motion controls beyond, utility, like aiming.
So you don't think you're going to play with the motion control too much in this game?
I don't think so. I may try it here and there. I'm sure Dan will bring it over. But
so do you think as an experience it holds up with just because I was actually enjoying it. I only did controller. I didn't really mess around too much when I actually got to play the test punch. I was enjoying it, though. I was enjoying it to the point that I don't know if I'm going to buy the game, but I'm definitely interested.
I think it's good. I was having fun. The controls are good. I like how it's still like right and left, like each arm is like left trigger is left arm, right trigger is right arm. Mm-hmm. And it just feels right, the punching with each trigger, it's not like, I guess you could also use the buttons. A and B are also the arms. Yeah. It feels more natural using the triggers, though, because it's like you're actually, like, still punching.
I was actually using A and B, funny enough, but yeah, I didn't know you could use the triggers, but I might actually turn to that when I play the full game.
And blocking, though, is clicking the left stick, which I just, like, L3 and R3, for me, overall, in gaming, are not, like, I think those are, like, bonus buttons to me. They're not really good.
Yeah, that was difficult for me too when I was playing the test punch.
And I think in a hectic game like that where blocking is kind of crucial,
I feel like you can dodge in most cases, but I agree it's a little
to put block as one of the three main things in terms of attacking, blocking, and grabbing.
I would rather have it be a shoulder button or two of the shoulder buttons together.
I think they could have put it somewhere else. I mean, I don't design games, but I'm just in a frantic moment. I'm not about to click L3, but
I mean, I can say from my experience, it was just as difficult for me, and I don't play nearly as many Nintendo games as you do, but it just doesn't feel right. I mean, especially after we were playing Pokken Tournament, and that has it as a shoulder button, not a trigger button, rather. that feels way more natural. I was enjoying the hell out of it. I do definitely think, I don't know if I'm gonna buy. It's available on. It's available for $48 right now if you're a Prime member, and I do have Prime. I might get it for that, but I don't know if I'm gonna play it as much as I do Breath and Mario Kart. I mean, I still have a lot of Mario Kart to play because I was very deep into that. Then I took a break to do Breath again. We'll talk about that later. I think you and me kind of want to talk about my status in Breath on podcast, but I really like ARMS. I agree. I think it has a lot of potential. I almost feel like it's kind of one of those games that I feel like they're kind of building as a platform. Like, I want to see 6 months down the line, like, have they updated it? Is there cool DLC? Is it free DLC? Is there like new characters? Is there new modes? Has it grown into a giant online community? I think it's going to be a big game for them. I think it potentially could be like a big esports game.
Yeah, as far as Nintendo goes, I think it's going to be good, and it is growing on me. But I think just for me personally, I'm just not about fighting games.
Yeah,
and that's most of it.
I mean, it's cool though, because it's cool for someone like, again, we were talking with Aaron when he first came on 2 weeks ago. He's very into fighting games. We were also showing him Pokken Tournament. And he was into that. Like, you're right. Maybe it doesn't appeal to you or me. Maybe more me because I do like some fighting games. But I think it's important. It's strategically important from Nintendo, and I like that you're able to see that still, because I agree. It's very important, I think, to their overall market, and it's actually something that a lot of people were commenting on coming out of E3, is that they seem very focused on, if not esports, competitive gaming as a focus of the Switch. Between this, the new Pokken Tournament, which is probably going to get way more play, not just coming off of the Switch being a bigger success than the Wii U, but also, you have to remember, now we're coming off of first Pokken Tournament launched before Pokemon Go, right?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that either. We might need to.
Yeah, I don't know. They might have been close, actually.
They might have been close, but Pokemon has seen a big resonance, and I think that plus the Switch is going to equal that game having a bigger splash, same way Mario Kart Deluxe did. And then obviously Splatoon 2 is going to be giant. Like, they have a big competitive gaming push this summer. I think that's a smart idea.
Yeah, Splatoon, I'm very excited for.
Oh yeah,
but for the single player.
Single player, but dude, you played a lot of that multiplayer.
No, I did, but looking back, I enjoyed the single player so much. Like, to me, Splatoon is like, I look at it as an awesome platformer, and I beat the single player and I was blown away. It's bliss. It's Nintendo platforming bliss, and the mechanics are so good, and I love the multiplayer, and it works both ways, but. Like I said, I just love single player games, and nothing beats a giant boss. Like, walking into a big circle room and there's a giant boss monster. I live for that. Right. I don't think ARMS has that.
I don't know if it does either, but tell you what, on that note, is there any other games you want to talk about, my buddy?
Just that I got every card piece in Mario Kart, so I'm rocking gold all the way through.
Fuck yeah.
Feels great.
I saw it before. It looked very nice.
Great, yeah. And that's 5,000 coins, if anyone's wondering.
It's a lot of coins.
A lot of coins.
Ben did a lot of work. Ben did a lot of good work.
And I recently upgraded every single clothing item fully in Breath of the Wild. So slow clap for me. Thanks.
You know, I've actually only found 3 out of the 4 fairies.
Not that anyone actually cares, but it's an accomplishment.
I think it's good. I've only found, like I said, I still need to find a fairy. I want to do that at least. I want to find one more fairy. We'll get into this. You know what? I guess now if we're going to talk about what I've been playing,
lay it on me.
Let's get into it right away. So Breath of the Wild has been a big topic of discussion for us in general on this podcast, but in the last couple of weeks, the idea of me finishing up the game has been a topic of discussion with you and me. I don't know quite as much on podcast. I know we've alluded to it, but obviously we want to do that big Zelda spoiler cast. No, we have kind of talked about this on podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm very close now. I found all the memories, which is one of my big requirements. I'm ready to go and just beat it. I only have about 94 shrines though, and Ben is actually gonna sit here. He has a counter argument. He says, I haven't really heard it.
Brian wants to just go for the end now.
Okay, so let me explain my point of view. I'm sitting at 94 shrines. I've played 130 hours, not as much as Ben.
Out of 120 shrines.
Out of 120 shrines, I have over 3/4. I've gotten all the memories. I only have about 60 or 70 Korok seeds. I will admit I haven't done the largest majority of those.
I wouldn't. I'd say the Koroks, whatever amount you have, could be left for after game.
That's the least essential thing you'd say.
Least essential, I'd say shrines. You should get all 120 before you.
So you want me to go all the way for 120? I'm sitting at 194. Exactly right. Oh, no, 94. 94. I apologize. 94. I was about to say, I put past it.
You got more than in the game.
Damn right I did. No, but I'm sitting at 94, so that's 26 more shrines. And you know as well as me, those last, 20 shrines are pretty... Now, look, there's a couple areas I haven't explored in certain detail.
You got any shrine quests left?
I have about 5 on me right now. I'm sure I could probably get more.
Knock those off first. You don't have to look for them.
Here's what I'm going to do. I have one more shrine I wanted to do. I was going to end it at 95 because I wanted to do the 3 labyrinth shrines because I love those, and I also like the barbarian armor, and I did want to get that upgraded. And I also have 1 fairy left to find. I want to at least find all 4 fairies. I don't need to upgrade every single piece of armor before I fight Ganon. I at least want to...
Do you know which fairies you have?
The one in... Obviously the one right outside...
Kakariko.
That's I think the one pretty much everyone gets first. The one near Rito Village. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yep. Just off the tower.
Just off the tower. Which I think is also a fairly easy one to find, I think. Those are probably, I think, the 2 easier ones to find. And then the one in the Aklaka region.
Akala, yeah.
Aklaka. The
Klakalaka.
Aklakalaka Shaka. Makalaka.
Yeah.
In the Akala region, I have that one.
Cool. Now I just know which one you're missing, which I like to know.
I have a feeling it's in the Gerudo Desert.
You can't see this, but doing an eyebrow thing.
Ben's basically confirming that I'm at least somewhat correct in my suspicion with that eyebrow. It would make sense. Because it goes... The whole game kind of does this too. It doesn't go perfectly, but it's kind of like bottom left, bottom right, upper left, upper right.
Yeah, a lot of the main things are spread out fairly evenly.
If not perfectly.
In an organic way, though.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Because it's not literally a perfect X too. It's kind of like a weird crooked one, but it makes sense.
Like the main villages and the Divine Beasts also have that.
They do, but it's
They're
not
spread out fairly evenly.
Fairly evenly, but it's a little like on the right side of the map. The 2 of the Divine Beasts are actually fairly close together when you really think about it. The Goron City one, and the one in the first one,
Zora.
the Zora one, Vamado, are fairly close to each other when you really think about their placement. Closer than I think a lot closer than the other 2 are. So it's kind of like an imperfect X, but it kind of works because it all kind of lines up. Because Hyrule Castle itself, I don't think is perfectly. It's not really perfectly in the center of the map. It's more kind of.
True.
It's up a little bit towards the top.
It's pretty close though.
The middle top. Yeah, it is close.
When I first started the game, I thought the plateau would be in the middle, but that's off center.
It is off center. It is close. They're both close to the center. But they're not quite the actual center, which I kind of like. I kind of like that it's not like that though. It does because like you said, it feels more natural. But my whole point is getting back on topic. I understand what Ben's saying, and I would love to find all of them, but in the interest of, first off, speaking about it from a very pragmatic businessman point of view, I mean, most people have or are in the process of releasing their spoiler cast. I would like us to be at least somewhat topical when we talk about it. I'm not necessarily saying we have to record it next week. If anything, on top of that, I mean, we just did 3 weeks in a row of guests. I would like to take at least another week's break before we jump back into that world. But, same way that most reviewers that reviewed the game, I don't think got all 120 shrines. I understand the point, and I'm absolutely going to do it. Because again, once I beat, quote unquote, the game, and really by that I just mean I see the ending, I plan by all means on going back. I know we were talking about this a bit. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you get a better ending when you get all 120 shrines, though. I know the memories affect that. I don't think the shrine number affects that, correct?
The memories actually affect it. The shrines could affect it.
That's an interesting...
For me, it affected it.
I see. So you're saying it's more contextually, it just feels more complete.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Is there actually something physically that changes, or is it more of a...
Yes, but it's completely optional.
Oh, so it's not as big of a thing as, the memories. The memories, it does legitimately change the ending to a point that it's...
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That I didn't know that, and that does kind of change my opinion on it. I don't know. Because again...
You may not care, though. It was something that I really wanted.
I don't know what this difference is, so it's hard for me to say.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, if anything, I don't know if... Here's my other point, too. Now, we've talked about this a little bit. There's 3 people that are probably, as of right now, going to be on this episode, right? It's going to be you, me, and at the very least our friend...
At least me, you, and Dan.
Scartapane, not Roach.
Well, I meant Roach.
Roach is not done with the game, right? Doesn't he still have like 2
No,
left?
you're right. I guess if you're gonna not care, you'll probably beat it before Roach.
Yeah, I mean...
Scartapane has already beaten it.
Scartapane has beaten it. We're ready.
I'd also like to hear his take on it.
I would too, because he also played it differently. He didn't get any of the memories. He just literally viewed them on YouTube, and he didn't realize till afterwards that there was.
That hurts. That hurts. When you said that, I.
Oh, it's fucking terrible.
My heart died a little.
He does that all the time though. Like he literally, I think The Last of Us and Arkham Knight, the Batman game, he literally just watched a movie of them. But he plays a lot of games. He's one of the more dedicated gamers I know. He does. It's weird. He has that weird mentality of like with certain games he just doesn't give a fuck. He'll just like view a movie instead of like having to play through the whole thing.
Well, the memories, I kind of get it with the memories, but just to watch Arkham.
Yeah, that's weird.
The cutscenes, I guess, an optional thing you have to go out of your way for. Even though I cringed more to that one.
That one's more cringe. Well, he did it with The Last of Us, but that one makes sense to me because he's a PlayStation. He doesn't have he's an Xbox fanboy rather. He doesn't have a PlayStation. He's very ride or die with Xbox. So, like I've done that with Halo games. I've just like watched Let's Plays of Halo games instead of playing them. But
yeah, to be honest though, I would almost recommend Skyward Sword because there was this group of people who made like as official as they could have a movie of Skyward Sword where every single moment that was pertinent to the story, even like every text box they got like someone to commit to being the voice of. So they have everyone has a voice actor who was just a fan and they all came together to make like the Skyward Sword movie, and that game is really story heavy. So I think I watched it after beating everything, but I think I can't remember the name of who did it, but they made a really faithful cut of the Skyward Sword movie.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the other side of it too. Now is that there are some legitimately great, like video game cuts of like all the cutscenes made into movies. Like I know The Last of Us has one that turns it into like a 6-hour miniseries, and it's fucking fantastic. Because it's not just like I like the ones that don't just take.
Because sometimes gameplay moments matter.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And when someone knows what they're doing, they add everything that is cohesive to the story.
There's this one guy who does it with all the Naughty Dog games. He turns them into movies, and he takes just enough of the gameplay. Because also Naughty Dog is good, too, because they have very limited HUDs and stuff. They make it easy for someone to just cut it together into a movie. Like, I think there's a lot, particularly with now the games are getting way more cinematic, that you could do to make, like, a great, like, 6-hour, like, or 3-hour movie out of, like, most video game cutscenes. And some limited but important portions of gameplay. But that said, I mean, I wouldn't rather watch that than play a game, you know?
So to get back to the point,
yes,
is you're gonna get all the shrines or not?
I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna at least try to get. Broach was suggesting this. I'm gonna at least try to get to 100.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do 6 more. We'll see how I'm feeling.
I think also he might want to be a part of it, so maybe he's also making you take a bit longer.
Well, okay, here's the thing. If he can commit to finishing the game, I will happily take all the time I need, but I would like to, if not set a date, set a range, just because, again, I do think we're getting to the point now that, like, I don't want to wait so much longer, you know? Like, if it's another month, fine. I don't want to wait so much more than that, you know?
I mean, it's really on you.
What's on
I'm
me?
just getting more Koroks.
I know
That's all I'm doing, bro.
I know you. If Roach can commit, but here's the thing: I've already talked to him about it, and he seems a little hesitant too, because I think he wants to play through it at his own pace.
Yeah,
yeah, and I respect that. I really do. I respect that he wants to play through it at his own pace. Getting off that though, what else? Oh, I bought Wolfenstein this week. I bought a bunch of games actually. I went on a little bit of a spending spree. So PlayStation Store was doing another sale for E3, and Ben, I went a little bit too ham. I bought Wolfenstein, Firewatch, which is an awesome game that I've wanted to play. It's like a little indie game. You actually would really like it. We should check that out. Overwatch, Wolfenstein, Firewatch, Transistor. What else did I buy?
Transistor is the Bastion game.
Yeah, that's a game from the Bastion
spiritual
people.
sequel.
It seems really cool. I know I was watching my buddy play a couple weeks back. Let's see, what else did I buy? Dying Light, which is supposed to be a really cool like free roaming game. It's like a zombie game, but like it's from the people who did Dead Island, which I actually enjoyed. Dead Island was a pretty good game, even though that it was nothing like that. Remember that trailer, that like really melodramatic trailer, and then the game was like get an electrical machete and chop up zombies.
The original Dead Island trailer.
Yeah, do you remember that trailer, dude?
That was amazing.
And then the game was nothing like that.
And it had like that melancholy like song. And
yeah.
Was the trailer in reverse?
It was in reverse for part of it, and then it like went forward.
Oh man, I want to watch that. I think I might have watched that trailer like 30 times. I was so blown away.
That was an amazing trailer, and the game was nothing
like it.
It was so funny. And then they did a trailer for the sequel, and it was like very silly and jokey, and then the game just disappeared.
You know what? Also, I don't know if you know, but Tobuscus on YouTube, he does these like trailer like things, like literal trailers or songs. He like makes songs of trailers, and they become pretty stupid. But the one for that is what I watched 30 times. I think he wrote a song that went with the song, and I was just like, I loved it.
So, man, I just feel like either way, I feel like I just always get. Oh, I also bought a new the last House of Wolves, the last Destiny expansion, because I'm a big Destiny nerd. How do you feel about that, Ben? I feel like you've done this too. We've talked about this, like going on just like a game binge because it's on sale, like whether it's a Humble bundle or Steam. Like
Humble, yeah.
It's
always on Steam, yeah.
I love that. It's like the funnest thing, but then you also are like, what did I do? I just spent $100, but I got a lot of games for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that's been my week. I played a bit of Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein is
the Jewish one.
My dad actually, as a kid, Wolfenstein is one of the few games my dad played. Wolfenstein 3D. We had an old MS-DOS computer when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Microsoft DOS, like early fucking like pre-Windows shit. We used to play that game. That was one of the first games I ever played. It's literally, I think, the only game my dad ever really played. But he used to always call it Wolfenstein, so I always go to call it Wolfenstein now. It's like in Young Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. Frankenstein, you anti-Semite. Okay. Anyway, Mel Brooks jokes aside, moving off this.
Good reference.
Thank you. I'm glad you appreciated it. Getting into it now, we kind of just want to spend 15, maybe 20, talk about a couple subjects very candidly. Number one, we got to do a lot of E3 talk last week, but you and me didn't really get to do much one-on-one talking, so a week later from the show, what do you think? Obviously Super Mario Odyssey is like the one thing that you and I think are going to want to gush about, but what else are you thinking about? Like games you saw, things that impressed you?
I think games that I know I'm going to buy day one are very few. It's Mario Odyssey, whatever the Yoshi game is going to be, and Rocket League. All 3 Switch games. I don't have an Xbox. I don't have a PlayStation. I know that's sacrilegious to some people, but those are the 3 games I'm going to buy. Doesn't mean it's the 3 games that... Doesn't mean I don't think more games looked dope.
Well, there's a lot of games that look dope.
But that's what I was going to spend my money on.
I'll give you this. I'm definitely... Obviously, Super Mario Odyssey. I think I'm definitely going to get Rocket League on the Switch just because I know you and Dan are getting it, and...
I played that game at PAX. They had like a Surface tablet bar, free play area.
Didn't you ask these people if it was coming to the Switch? No, that was a different game.
That was a different game, but last time I went to PAX, I was grilling everybody like, yo, Switch? Coming to Switch? Switching it up? They all scoffed at me. But Rocket League, I think it was rumored, though, before this happened.
It's been rumored for a while now, I think.
Great choice. It's got some Mario hats in it.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. It already had a lot of, like, customization.
Imagine Mario jumps off of that one, too.
Some of the fun is from making your car look, personalized. But the gameplay is just so fun.
Oh, yeah.
I think I played it, No, I played it with an Xbox controller connected to the Surface. I was going to say maybe I used the keyboard, but no. Because I'm wondering how it's going to work with a controller, but I already played it with one. And it's just a really fun game, especially with friends. Like, I don't know if enough of us needs to get it for it to be, like, truly great.
From what I've heard, just playing around with other people online, and even
Yeah.
there's like an offline bot mode is like a lot of fun. It's weird because for me, it's always been one of those games that on other systems I've been interested in, but I don't think I'd spend my money on. But on Switch, taking it everywhere,
Yeah.
just even the idea of us having some local play games. I mean, provided the local play works this time, but having some like local play games at your house and where it's just sitting around drinking beers like we are right now, that to me is way more attractive than just like buying it on my PlayStation 4.
Yeah, and I said earlier that I'm not really about competitive games, but Rocket League just hits a spot for me, and I think it's also the fact that you're on a team.
Yeah.
It's not only competitive, and I think also something about just car mechanics is different to me than fighting mechanics.
You always seem to be more willing. You seem to like car type competitive games and online games a lot more. You always have, not just.
It's slightly different, yeah. Even though it's
yeah.
more soccer than racing.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, I think just when I'm on a racetrack, all the competitiveness goes away. You know, it's just me and the track.
It's just fun. Yeah.
But that's not really Rocket League. But Rocket League is just great. Just shout out to Rocket League.
Shout out to Rocket League. Great game.
Yeah, can't wait to play it. That's a buy for me.
That's a definite buy.
And anything else?
I mean, before we gush about Odyssey, I don't know. I've been getting a lot of. I mean, as awesome as it was, I was someone who I never played the first Beyond Good and Evil, but it's always been something I've been interested in seeing getting a sequel to, just because it was such a weird, interesting, different game. Hearing all this stuff in this last week about how the game is actually like not at all developed and how it's going to take a long time is just like, well, that was a great moment, but like, who knows if we're ever going to fucking see this game. That's been a little disappointing. I mean, again, I feel like most topics we kind of touched on last week. I'm still feeling Far Cry 5. I can't wait for that game. Assassin's Creed Origins looks awesome. I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan. That might get me back into the series. I haven't bought the last couple, although, to be fair, I only just recently got a PlayStation 4 and could play them.
They stopped coming out yearly, right?
Well, they took a year off, actually, only.
Oh.
But for them, that's a big deal, because that's like one of their pillar franchises.
I think an issue with that series was just oversaturation.
Oh, yeah. Oversaturation. Same thing with any game like that. When it's coming out annually, even if these games are in development for 3-4 years in advance, it's hard to iterate on what everyone's doing, especially when there's multiple teams working on them and there's overlap of ideas, or maybe one year someone does it better than the next, you know, or like maybe it's just hard to really get a really good centralized idea around everything. I hope going forward, the cynic in me knows they're probably just going to go right back and like build another 5 years of annual games on top of this one, but I hope, even if it's every 2 years, dude, like take 1 year off every year.
It's like the tortoise and the hare, you know?
Yeah.
Mario games, there's been a million of them. But there's at least 4 or 5 years between each one. They went for longevity.
Are you talking about mainline games?
Talking about mainline.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some offshoots, you know, handhelds, whatever, but I think they got the quantity and they have time on their side in terms of longevity. But, you know, you keep it in the oven is what I'm saying. Like, I guess, you know, Ubisoft has a lot of different teams working on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just when you have more focus, you know. And if you're the tortoise, you're coming through later, but you're coming through first.
Oh, yeah, because you don't get tired out. And I think even if it's not about developers getting tired out, which I do think was legitimately a problem with the Assassin's Creed series, but
it's the ideas.
It's the ideas, but it's also public perception of those ideas. People just got to a point that I feel like they were like, especially after some of those games were very cringy and very like filled with tech problems, and like just it felt like almost every other game you were getting like a shitty game, because 3 was pretty bad, then 4 was good, and then Unity was like dog shit. Like it does add up to a point that I feel like people get kind of sick of it. Like, even if you're doing every other year, I feel like having that year off is very refreshing for people.
Yeah, even if, say, it is the same ideas, or it's not very innovative, it's more iterative, just like you said, having the year off gives people a time to breathe.
And it gives them, if they're a true fan, which again, that series has a giant fan base. I consider myself a very big part of it. I played I think 4 or 5 games in that series. Regardless, though, on that note, since you brought up Mario, I mean, Mario is a very, very elastic series, though. That's the other thing. Assassin's Creed, there's only so much you can do with it. Now, Mario, you can do a lot of things. And, did we see that? Did we see that, Ben? Did we see an example of all the fucking things you could do with Mario this E3?
Well, this is the thing, is this is the first game in a while that I'm taking a different approach with in terms of hyping myself. Mm-hmm. Breath of the Wild, I pored over every single minute detail of anything that was released or speculated on. And it has to do also with that it's coming a bit closer in terms of waiting from like announcement to release. But with Odyssey, I'm going for like staying away kind of thing.
Interesting.
And I want to spoil as little as possible. I watched the main trailers. I saw a little bit of the developer stuff for E3, but I'm staying away.
So you didn't watch, like, I think they did a very similar thing that they did with Breath of the Wild last year. There's probably about 2 hours of gameplay on their channel. You didn't watch any of that?
I watched 5 minutes of New Donk City that came right after the trailer, and I was like,
I'm done.
I'm done.
I respect that.
And I've seen a couple GIFs from Nintendo on Twitter, which disappointed me a bit, just because I'm now in this headspace of waiting and not seeing. But yeah, now it's just like this game of trying not to see stuff, which is going to be hard in itself. But I think it's been a while since I've had such a game I was so hyped for, and I also was so fresh going in. So that's my goal.
That's a good thing. And I'm not going to say too much, but I'm obviously coming from a different perspective. I'm not as big of a Mario person as you. Generally, I kind of rush into Mario games. I see them for the first time when I play them with you when I come over to your house. Obviously, as we've been it's something that's been, I think, very well addressed in the past on this podcast. This isn't my first Nintendo system, but it's the first I've owned in a generation. I took a generation off, and I didn't play a lot of the Wii U Mario games. Even, honestly, on the Wii, I really only played the first Galaxy. I never played Galaxy 2. So I've had a bit off from Mario. So but I think that's the cool thing about this game, and the cool thing in general about what Nintendo's been doing with the Treehouse events in E3 is that it gives people a really good chance to see a good chunk of gameplay. And they even talked about that with the Metroid game. Was that like they didn't want to just announce it on the show floor, because obviously they were very focused on Switch, which I think paid dividends. That was
the 3DS Metroid game.
Yes, the 3DS, not Metroid Prime 4, which is awesome. But we know, what do we know? We know nothing about it though. At the same time, like it was awesome to know it's coming, but that was literally like oh yeah, we didn't forget about Metroid announcement. You know, they even pretty much said as much in an interview. But Samus Returns, like, it was cool to see that game in action and get a sense of it instead of just being like, oh, trailer in the middle of the show, all the Switch stuff, and then we kind of like what we were talking about with how PlayStation 4 in their conference took a big chunk out to talk about VR when maybe that wasn't the smartest move. It kind of derailed it a bit. Like, I'm happy that they didn't do that and they showed it that way. I think the game has gotten so much, if anything, it's probably gotten more press because it was shown in the way it was, where it literally just came after a big chunk of Mario. They're like, oh, by the way, oh, surprise, we got more announcements. Like, that's a really cool strategy. Nintendo's doing cool stuff. You know, I have to say, I've been hit or miss on Nintendo. I've been a little bit, not skeptical, a little bit more reserved. I have to say, I'm even more so happy about my Switch purchase after E3.
I think anyone that bought a Switch is not regretting it.
Talking about the Switch, Ben, and switching subjects, Switch, see what I did there? There was one thing about the Switch you wanted to talk about before we wrapped up.
Yeah, just they had a update version 3.0.0 for the Nintendo Switch hardware, and a bunch of little things, stuff like you can set who is where on your like user icons. So like if you're sharing the console with someone in your home, and Joey wants to be listed first over Mary, they can now switch their icons.
Joey and Mary can finally be at peace.
Finally. No more fighting over who really owns the console. But
there's another cool thing that I was when you were showing me the Gold Mario you were showing me earlier.
Also, yeah, that's the coolest thing, so I'm leaving it for last.
Oh, there's more. I didn't know there was more in between.
And another little thing, like it's synced up with all your Wii U and 3DS friends lists. So now it automatically lets you just send a friend request to anyone who is on those systems.
Cool.
So I got a few new friends from the update.
Very nice.
I'm trying to think. There was a couple other small things. Oh, another cool thing was it has like a Find My Controller thing now.
Oh, does it really?
So you can go, as long as you have a controller connected, you go to the settings and you can make any controller that's connected vibrate. So say you have like Joy-Con L is stuck in the couch or in your bed or something.
I was seeing that. That's fucking cool.
Dude. You just click it and it's like vert.
And that's a really smart move, because even though I think they've marketed the system more towards like 20-something kids and like young professionals and families, I think it's smart for Nintendo to understand that as a company, they always have a lot of family focus and a lot of family accessibility. And I can see that being such a big issue. Like, you know, even if you are a, you know, like 30-something dad who bought it to play Zelda, your kids are playing 1-2 Switch and they just scatter them everywhere. That's such a smart idea to just be able to find
It could
them.
be good, yeah, for a family who has a cushiony couch or something that stuff gets lost in.
Or if you're an absent-minded 24-year-old, then Brian said so.
True.
It would be helpful too.
Yeah, there was a couple more just random like settings, utility things. But the coolest one was they added like kind of like the iPhone has this feature where you can set it to completely grayscale or completely inverted color scheme.
Which is meant for people who like color blindness and all that
You're
stuff.
colorblind or just like have weird eye issues maybe. I don't know how inverted would really help anyone, but I get the grayscale, black and white.
I don't see that one. I feel like is more like a cool thing. I don't understand like how anyone could actually, who had color blindness could, or any sort of weird eye issue could find that beneficial.
Which one is not beneficial?
The grayscale, the one that literally just turns into
okay.
black and white.
I'm thinking black and white is more beneficial just because it's like it just softens everything, takes the color out. I guess maybe it doesn't
That's an
matter if
interesting
you can't see color. Maybe it's just already grayscale, or you know, I don't really know, but it's an iPhone feature. I'm sure there's thought behind it. It's a thing in technology.
You're right. I forgot there was literally a grayscale option.
Yeah, and the inverse is cool though. For me, it's just cool. Like I put Zelda on in inverse for like an hour or two last night, and I was just playing like. I was like, this is like...
it's like Nightmare Zelda.
This is like a new Twilight Realm. It's like it's the Dark World for Breath of the Wild. All the, you know, the expansive green pastures, it's just purple.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, it's fun. It's fun for a little bit, but also it's cool switching it back to regular. It's like, whoa, that's that much more amazing. Just seeing it...
it makes you appreciate the color.
You appreciate the real color again. So it's some cool little things. I was having fun with it.
All right, very nice. I like grayscale because I like the idea of being able to turn like Mario Kart into like Mad Max Fury Road Black and Chrome Edition.
Yeah.
Like just like get
that was slightly less awesome to me just because my TV can already do that. So if I wanted to, I could just make it black and white anyway.
That's true. It's always better in system than on a TV though. Like,
but also Switch and handheld, you could still do both of those things. So it's cool.
I feel like there's like a lot of machinima people who are gonna have fun with like the different color modes and stuff. You know.
Something I want to test though is the screenshots, because I know on the iPhone, if you set it to inverse and take a screenshot and then look at it in your photos, it's a regular picture.
That's a really
like it doesn't
good point.
apply to the screenshot; it applies to just whatever mode you're actually in.
We should check that. We should check that tonight even before I go. On that note though, let's just wrap up real fast and let's talk about Game Club.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the top, we're going to kind of get some spring cleaning out of the air. Summer cleaning at this point, pretty much. So we obviously did Game Club 2 weeks in a row, guys, with Psychonauts. Me and Ben...
Yo, look at my notes right now.
He's got
a full page of notes right now.
Full page of notes on Game Club.
Don't say I didn't try.
We all fucking did it. Well, first off, before we even say anything, me and Ben tried our asses off on this. Now, we're not canceling Game Club. We're not doing anything like that. But we are... And we were already doing this. Like, again, we took a couple weeks off, and part of the reason was that we wanted to refocus Game Club. We wanted to think about how we're executing it, but also how we're delivering it to you guys. Because obviously, one of the big points of Game Club is that we want to get better fan engagement, but also we want to make it a very exciting prospect for us, too, you know? So,
yeah, and to be blunt about it, we're not feeling Psychonauts.
Oh, to be a little less blunt about it, Ben's not feeling Psychonauts. I'm frankly having a little bit more trouble with just that particular game and the structure. I love the game, and I fully plan on doing a playthrough. I'll probably even, a couple weeks from now, do a What We've Been Playing wrap-up, And
We're still going to talk about Psychonauts this week.
Yes,
I have some things to say. But, yeah.
We did just kind of want to briefly clear the air and... Really
We're going to evolve Game Club. It's still a segment. And
yes.
we just want to make it less of a commitment and make sure that if we're not feeling a game, it's okay to move on. And if we are feeling a game, it's okay to not move on.
And on that note, yes, on one level, we want to make it more of a thing where we ease into a game, and then instead of just saying we're going to play through this entire game and not really take into account whether or not we end up enjoying the experience or whether or not it's a game that works. Because again, too, I do think legitimately some games we might not just feel. There might be some games that we just don't work in this format.
We don't want to limit ourselves by what we think would be a good game to play till the end.
Yes.
And so we're also implementing a thing where... 2 weeks, say?
All right, so here's how it's going to work, guys. And this is an update. And to be fair, too, this is a brand new segment. Things change, like programming goes through a development process. So this is going to be the new format, not just for this, but for any game club going forward. So for 2 weeks, we are going to pick out a game. We're going to try it. We're going to report back. Everything's going to work the same way that the first 2 episodes of Game Club did. For the record, the video content, we just released the first one this week. That's still going to be coming too. But the thing that's going to change is that at the end of that 2 weeks, we're not going to commit ahead of time to playing any game. We're going to take those 2 weeks, try to figure it out, try to see how we feel, and then we're going to put it to a vote internally, but also with you guys. So we're gonna sit here. Me and Ben are going to say, do we like it or do we not like it? And what is the system you came up with?
We're going to say plug it or fug it.
Plug it or fug, F-U-G it. So me and Ben are going to sit here. We're going to say plug it or fug it. And we'll probably, in those 2 weeks, we'll be like, okay, so what are you feeling about the game? So there will be a certain amount of preparation. There will be a certain amount of us feeling it out, both on air as well as off air.
So maybe we'll do a Twitter poll.
Yes.
Maybe we'll just ask the audience, who knows?
Yeah, maybe just leave a comment.
Maybe the audience can sway us. We might have veto power.
Yes, Ben brings up a lot of interesting points. So on one level, obviously me and Ben are going to want to play stuff that we find enjoyable. We're not going to want to soldier through something, but we do want it, again, the same thing with this. The whole point is about audience engagement, about you guys playing along with us. If you guys are enjoying a game, or if there's a game that you guys really want to see us stick through it, even if me and Ben aren't feeling it, leave a comment. We're definitely going to be doing Twitter polls as well as YouTube polls to try to get you guys to get an idea of what you guys want us to play and what you guys don't want us to play. If you guys are feeling it, if you guys are just enjoying watching them.
Also, we just love to analyze games, so more might be better. Quantity over, playing one game to the end.
So here's how it's going to work. Like we said, for those first 2 weeks, we're going to be running polls on Twitter and YouTube, as well as internally deciding it. Now, end of the day, Ben's right. We do have veto power. So if there's a game that we're really not feeling, we might just not go through with it. But if there's something that me and Ben are kind of on the fence about and you guys really want us to play, we'll probably soldier through it. And again, that's the cool thing too, is you guys can help us decide what we do and don't play.
And don't worry, this is not just a huge veil to quit Psychonauts.
It's not. It isn't. It isn't.
But our point was to follow the art, Not that podcasting is a high art or anything, but when I make things, I like to see where the medium takes me, and whether we commit to something or not, it's better to have something fail and make something better out of it.
Yes, and also I think, frankly, it's just a better system. I mean, it's a lot to commit to a game that... Psychonauts was different because I'd played through a bit of it. I'm still enjoying the game, but I'd played through a bit of it, so I was a little bit more confident in it.
But neither of us actually finished where we committed up to last week.
We didn't even...
2 weeks ago.
We didn't, no. And I think some of that, too, might... Unfortunately, I think there might be a little bit of a homework element to this that you and I need to maybe... on our end.
You feel that more, though.
Maybe
I was
I feel
saying
that.
that I'm actually just not feeling the gameplay of Psychonauts,
Okay.
which could lead us into actually talking about Psychonauts.
Which could lead us into talking about Psychonauts, and also in general, too. In the future, there's probably going to be games that we just plow through because we're enjoying them so much.
Definitely.
But on that note, to just kind of wrap this up real fast, let's talk about Lungfishopolis, which is the only section that you and I both did of Psychonauts. And,
but all things considered, dope level.
Yeah.
Honestly, coolest level of the game so far.
Mm-hmm. So do you think on your own you might keep playing through it just to see where it goes?
I don't know. I don't think so, honestly. I think maybe the reason you're feeling slightly different about it is also because I'm playing on such a crazy control scheme.
That's right.
I never, like, maybe if I hooked my my mouse up to my laptop, that might be my best bet, because the game was made for PC with a keyboard. I'm using an Xbox controller where I had to manually map every button to, and
which, to be fair, is never a great setup.
It's never great, and also the game is not registering the triggers, so I'm 2 buttons short, and I keep getting these psychic powers, and I have nowhere to map them to, and it's just it's causing me grief, honestly.
And look, to be fair, it's not the best system for that, and unfortunately, maybe that's just a fallback on the hardware. I'm playing on the PS2 version. I know I had some misgivings just with how technically unadvanced that one was. So this might unfortunately be a case of neither one of us were playing on the preferred platform in the preferred way. I think that's something.
But also,
oh, I'm sorry.
Credit is not the right word, but the gameplay, I think, besides me having the controller mapping issues, or you're not playing on the original platform, I think the gameplay has not lasted the test of time. I think I could say that.
I mean, I think it's definitely a little bit more archaic gameplay. That's an interesting thing too to think about now that a sequel's coming out. How are they going to update that gameplay? Because I definitely think it does need an update. I think, I mean, even playing my version, if anything, too, like, I noticed in this level, particularly, as much as I love Lungfishopolis, that dodge mechanic is just not up to snuff. Like, how much you have to be very particular about where you're pointing the analog stick. If you're even, like, a little bit forward, like you know how sometimes, like, in a modern game, you'll be, like, kind of horizontally moving, and you can just dodge, and your character will dodge.
What are you using the dodge for?
Just to dodge away from, like, the missiles from the tanks and stuff.
Well, you get the shield in that level. That's what the shield is.
Yeah,
for.
I know. I was being dumb at first and not using the shield, but even regardless, I mean, like, to a certain degree, like, every element, every mechanic should be. It's not entirely fair because, again, this was a PlayStation 2 Xbox game, and that wasn't as big of a thing back then. But I mean, also to a certain degree, I mean, there's plenty of great games in that time period that had great control schemes that held up. And I don't want to be nasty to this game because I know it has a giant cult following, and I love what I played of it from a story perspective. And
it's great from a story perspective. Yeah, like, the writing is so good.
It is,
and it's like, it's so opposite for me in terms of games. Like, usually my thought process is, I'm playing a game, I'm loving it, cutscene, oh fuck, I gotta put the controller down, I have no control, woe is me, I can't do anything right now, I have no agency. And this is the opposite. I'm like, oh man, I'm hating these controls. Thank God there's a cutscene right now. I'm gonna laugh for a minute, and then I'm like, oh damn, back to these horrible controls.
To be fair, there is some great stuff in the gameplay, like, especially Lungfishopolis. Like, one of my favorite things is when you're running through the city and, like, you destroy things, and people are like, not the Natural History Museum.
Yeah, those sound bites are pretty great. It's like, no, the orphanage. Oh, that's not the orphanage.
Or they're like, oh, look, it's Kochamara. And, oh, no, wait, run! Like, I love that.
I do, like, conceptually, yeah, like, it's just, the ideas are there. I just, I stand by that the gameplay doesn't hold up. But I guess I'm somewhat biased because I'm having these issues.
I'm wondering if you play a bit of it on my PlayStation, how you would feel. I would actually like to, again, so first off, let's put it to a vote right now, which is what we're going to do going forward. What are you feeling? Plug it or fug it, Ben?
Fug it.
Fug it. Definitely for me too, just because, if anything, I'm actually really excited to talk about our next game. But just to wrap up on this real fast, I still think it's worth it for you. I still stand by, you should play the game through in its entirety. I still think that there's something.
I did like the boss, though, to be honest. I think the
tank boss? Or the boss
the boss of Lungfish.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like the other form of the, what's the general? I always forget his name. The general army guy.
Coach Orlander.
Oleander, yeah, you're right.
He's known as Kochamara in this.
Yeah, he's true. Like he becomes like the super villain. But it was like a lot of the boss battles before this were very like high concept, but this was like the first one that was like a straight up boss. And it almost played off of that fact because his catchphrases were like, big area attack. He would like, it was very tongue in cheek about just like boss battles, and he would be like, over complicated move that incorporates all the moves, and he was just like, all his catchphrases were like these dumb like cliche boss mechanics and stuff.
Well, that's when I think the game is at its best, when it's poking fun at video games in general. And that level in general too, like even with like what you're doing, like and like the fact you can like stomp on these people, like it's almost all played up and jokey to this point of like, it's fine, you're just in someone's mind, no one's actually dying, but it's almost like a commentary on like the wanton destruction that we do in most video games in a sense. Yeah. Like the game is so conceptually beautiful.
It has a lot going for it, and yeah, I'd be down to play it on your PlayStation and see how like an actually professionally mapped controller works with it.
Yeah, maybe you'll end up enjoying it. I still stand by, even if it's not in the format of Game Club, it's still a game I would love to see you at least go on YouTube and watch the movie version of it, you know? Like you should definitely do that. But
maybe it'll be a what we've been playing in the next couple of weeks, but
I definitely think I'm going to keep playing through, wrap it up, and report back to you guys here.
I think we want to move on with Game Club and evolve the segment, though.
All right, so on that note, and again, going forward, every game we do is going to have a trial period. We're going to take a couple weeks, but in light of the awesome announcements at the Nintendo Switch conference and
double dose
to kind of talk about it too. Last week we were even discussing how this is a game you didn't play. You only played the third one in the series. We were thinking it'd be cool to play through the original Metroid Prime.
Yes.
So Ben has a copy on the GameCube. I'm actually looking at it right now, but you also have the Metroid Prime trilogy. You think you're going to play it in that?
I got the Metroid Prime trilogy for Wii on Wii U as a download for Club Nintendo for free as my Club Nintendo rewards, because I exploited the system and got 1 million Club Nintendo points before the thing shut down.
You and Dan Roach you guys exploited the crap out of that system.
Yeah, I have all 3 games on GameCube for posterity's sake. Maybe I should probably sell them.
Only 2 on GameCube. The third one was
True.
only a Wii game.
You're definitely right about that. But I think I'm looking for a reason to boot up my Wii U. And I want to try the new control scheme. And I also think it might be cool if me and Brian are playing different versions. And we can kind of brings more to the conversation.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Ben's going to play it on that version. Ben, as you know, Keep Plugging originally, and it continues to be a big fixture at the Long Island flea market scene. So Mr. Benjamin Fowle here is selling me a copy of the original game.
Also, the Saturday, November 4th, I'm fairly certain, is the next Keep Pluggin video game event at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington.
Interesting.
That is officially happening.
Very interesting.
Look forward to that. I'll be dropping more hints about it and promoting it. And I'll be selling there and at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo in August.
Tell you what, Ben, are you going to be anywhere this weekend? Where else can we find you if we want to?
Nowhere this weekend. I'll keep you guys updated in terms of video games.
We should start plugging that here, definitely.
But, definitely. I haven't been really out there lately, but stuff is coming up in the summer. It's looking good, so...
Yeah, it's a good time of year. I know you end up doing a lot of business. So good, yeah. So we'll start getting people involved, because you guys should definitely come down, meet up with Ben. Every couple weekends I might be there too, and you might be able to see us, talk for a bit about games. Ben has an amazing collection of games. On that note, actually, as I was saying, he sold me a copy of Metroid Prime, a GameCube controller, and he even threw in a memory card for posterity's sake, and I'm going to be playing through it on my Wii in the original GameCube format. So kind of keeping in line with the precedents we started with, that we started with Psychonauts. We're each going to play on a different platform. I think we're going to probably try to keep that trend as much as we can going forward. Sometimes it might be unavoidable. Again, we only have so many resources and consoles between the two of us. Ben has everything. I only have so much. But
it's funny because I have like every system except PS3 and PS4, and Brian's main consoles is PS4 and PS3.
But I do also have a Wii, Nintendo 64, and Switch. But yes, I do literally have the 2 systems you don't have. That's very funny. Maybe we'll do a PlayStation 2 game or something next, but in the meantime, we're going to play through this game. We're not going to announce right here and now what section we're going to go into. As you guys know, one of the issues we kind of had with Psychonauts was that some levels were bigger than others, some were smaller. I think we're going to try to play a bit of the game and get a sense of how big every level is before we come back next week.
Yeah, I think the actual format is going to call for us to be a week ahead of the audience.
Yes.
If anyone's going to follow along. And that'll probably work out better in terms of knowing where to play up to, and it's better than guessing how long a level is going to be.
Keep Plugging's entire social media wheel. We're going to try to post all the information. I think we're going to definitely try to do a bigger promotional push too. As you guys might know if you've watched the video, I did a pretty awesome new opening. I think we're going to try to get some branding up there and stuff too. And we're also going to work on the platform, how we're going to deliver this content to you guys. We've talked about blog post. Some more concrete information on that, at least the first wave of it, will be coming this coming Tuesday. So just a couple days from when this podcast drops, when you guys are listening to this. Otherwise, though, we're really excited. Game Club is still something very important to us. I think it's, at least for me, it's the thing I'm most proud of coming out of. As much as I love this entire podcast, I think so far, at least, it's one of the coolest things we've made coming out of this podcast.
Yeah, and it's just something as gamers for us to broaden our horizons.
Yes.
And to have new stuff every week to analyze and discuss, and that's what we love to do.
All right. So on that note, Ben, I think that wraps it up for this episode.
Sounds good.
Ben, this was a good episode. Very laid back and nice.
I agree. We might have to drink every episode. I really liked it.
It was really good. It just kind of flowed out of us, right?
Goosey, bro.
We had some nice conversations. So anyway,
Definitely.
You guys are witnessing the birth of not only a new format for the podcast and Game Club, but also the rise of our alcoholism. So,
yeah.
Audience, I already did it. I'm sorry I finished up, but I am shaking. I just shake
physically shook my hand.
I physically shook.
Metaphysically shook yours.
Yes, Ben, you said it better than I could. And I'm reaching out and wishing all you a happy and healthy week. Be good. Be great. Ben, where can we find you online?
At Keep Pluggin LI on the Twitterverse. Sorry I said Twitterverse. That's really corny.
No, it's a good word.
And Keep Pluggin KeepPluggin.com.
Ooh.
Is a website. Also Keep Pluggin on
Everywhere
all the
else.
social media.
That's at Facebook. You got an Instagram. And check that out.
And YouTube.
And the YouTube, of course. Obviously the YouTube. So definitely check out the YouTube. We're still gonna do 2 more videos for the Psychonauts Game Club. And going forward, we got a lot of great content too. We still have a couple Let's Plays. Obviously with all the E3 craziness, we got a little bit behind, but we're gonna have a lot of good video content coming for you guys in the next couple of weeks. You guys know already what it is with me. You can find me online at Hi There Big Fella, on Twitter, in the Twitterverse, as Ben said. Everywhere else, you can find me as you can find me as The Sandsman. That's the_Sands_man on Instagram, and just as Sands_man, Sandsman on the good old Snapchat. Ben, thank you very much. Keep plugging.
Keep plugging. There's a bee.
That bee didn't die. Unlike all the bees of the film, The Happening.
I'm telling you, that movie's about bees dying.
It's not what
The
that is.
Happening.
That is
all
not.
The bees die.
That is not what The Happening is about. Maybe bees die in it, Ben, but I